welcome back everyone to the tier 2 talk. I'm ReTr00, of course, joined by Dweg. This time with Tyler. We're going to be talking a lot of Counter-Strike today, gents. I'm very, very excited to jump into this one and just basically ramble on for the hour. That's usually what we do here. First things first, you know the drill. Wordle. We've decided a little bit of content for everyone at home. We've made a Wordle up. It is of a professional player, 5 letters in length. You just got to guess who it is. That's all it is here, gents. I will show you it now so you can have a little look. I'll type in the letters and you can basically have a guess. Go with the flow. There you have it, gents. Oof. Your first 5 letters. You got an idea as to who you want to put in.
Do you wanna hit it, Tyler, with the first name just to get us started?
It's tough. I'm gonna go with Mihu.
Is it M-I-C-H-U? Yes?
Yeah, well, it's not that one, is it?
Are we happy with that? No. Word not found in dictionary. In dictionary. Hold on. We've got friendly fire. We'll come back to us because apparently it has to be a word of the English dictionary. Now, for me...
Oh, no.
Now,
you've just done it completely.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see. Language, English. No dictionary. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
All right. We're good. We're getting there. Hold on.
That's a good shout, actually, Tyler. I do like that. You get a lot of different letters in there.
Yeah.
Right,
it's letters that are used in other names as well.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. Mihu. Done.
The
M
is right.
In the right place.
Mopos? I'm just trying to think of names that start with M.
Ooh.
Should we go Mopos? We'll try that for now and see if we get anywhere.
You going with Mopos?
Yeah, Ryan's smiling a bit here. Yeah.
Is it with a Z? Yeah, there you go.
Oh!
He's done it. Right. Nice one. Well done, guys.
Too easy for Dweg.
Yeah, I thought that was a good one, though.
Yeah, it's not bad.
The double O as well, I thought that was going to throw you off. I really hoped that when you said Miku, you weren't going to start with him because the M was the big giveaway.
Yeah.
That's it, mate. It all comes crashing, burning down. But welcome, gents, of course. Time to talk some Counter-Strike. We can start with the online events and get to business with that. A lot going on, a lot starting up. Basically, post-RMR, Tier 2 Counter-Strike is starting to make its return.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's always how it is, right? Is that you get events that pop up here and there, and I think what we'll go through out with the show is even LAN events coming back. Now, I think there was a portion of time before COVID where you probably remember it as well, Tyler. There was just LAN events for all the small TOs everywhere. And I think what we're seeing now is obviously the UK scene. We're starting to get a couple of LANs back locally. The Denmark scene, like they're starting, especially the Nordic scene as a whole, a lot of LAN events going on there. So seems like now that sort of COVID's on the way out, just bring all the LAN events back as much as possible.
Yeah, I think kind of just like mainland Europe, especially like Germany and France and whoever, they're still going to be lagging behind just because I think they were always the slower ones to open back up. And like, especially here in Germany, there's still so many people that are skeptic of the new regulations. Like,
right.
Nobody really trusts them yet.
Okay. Yeah, so it might be a little bit longer then. Yeah. I mean, is Meisterschaft ever on LAN? Or because I remember it used to be once upon a time, but I think it's been online for quite a while now.
It's basically been online since COVID. They had bigger plans to actually further extend it offline with bigger venues as well. But since 910 Damage League and Meisterschaft are now the same thing, I'm hoping for offline finals to kind of be at a new stage as well. Just because usually they had similarly sized events for each. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What event do we want to start off with, Ryan?
Do you want to talk UK and then maybe expand European-wise? Let me double check before I quickly leak this that the bracket has gone live. Otherwise, I will look like the biggest idiot going. Yes, okay. So the bracket has been announced.
Lovely.
From the UK circuit. And of course, for those maybe at home that don't know, the UKIC obtained by Endpoint, they are basically what we are. This is becoming kind of like the 99 damage of UK. I think that's the easier, maybe not so much an esport in terms of a platform, but in terms of RTO, right? Is that UKIC is becoming the predominant TO outside of the ESL Premiership. This is the bracket that we're seeing here for the UK circuit. Tyler, I think you'll notice maybe a couple of these teams A lot of them, though, from grassroots, right? I think there is definitely a lot to talk about here when it comes to Fanbit and ITB on flip sides of the bracket, which means we could have another ITB Fanbit Grand Final, as we saw at Insomnia. Not to mention as well, we've got epic 34 winners of Dusty, or 35 winners, excuse me, of Dusty. Temperate had that deep run into the RMR as well, where they made day 2, played the BO3 against Sangal, and I think they took like 10 maps off of their pick, and it was like a pretty one-sided game overall, but still really impressive to see how they did. Blackhand as well, doing really well in recent times. So we're actually starting to see a lot of UK talent blossoming, and I'm excited to see this one unfold.
I think it's going to be a wake-up call for the UK teams if Dusty go and win it again, isn't it? I mean, obviously they've come here because they won the last UK LAN. But I think as a whole, the top dogs have to be Fanbit and ITB. Like, even though Dusty have won a previous LAN, they, to me, are going to be underdogs in that semi against an ITB. I mean, that Eco Temperate game, I think realistically, that's the only chance that I've kind of got on seeing an upset. Maybe Blackhand Dusty. Actually, probably Blackhand Dusty and Eco Temperate are the 2 games for me in which I could see a potential upset and an underdog win to come through for Blackhand and to come through for Temperate. I mean, you've got to remember too, for Dusty, even though they won the last LAN, they're still a main team, and so are Blackhand. So that could actually be a much closer game than what most people would have imagined.
I think it comes down to what I gather from it being single elim and having a good day, playing online.
Definitely.
Is always going to be a factor, I think.
Well, it's 2 days, isn't it, Ryan?
Yes.
So they play all the quarterfinals on one day and then semi-grand final the next day. So it's a brutal bracket.
Yeah.
So you might be on the money there, Tyler, is that if you just get off to a slow start, if you don't play that well on the day, that's it. You could just be out early.
Yeah.
And in terms of the prize pool, only top 4 get prize money. So win at least 1 game and you'll secure yourself some pounds. And all the way forward into first place gets 1,200, which is very decent, especially for teams like ITB and Fanbit, who have just come off the back of placing very highly at iSeries. I mean, you can put Eco into that same conversation too, to try and see if they can get some more money behind them.
Yeah, and I think especially for Fanbit, this is like much needed, right? Where we see Fanbit not really invited to the relog circuits. Hopefully that will be now that we've seen them do so well in relegation. A chance for them to make money online, because the only opportunities we've really seen them blossom is at LAN, right? And the UK LAN, your Epics and your Insomnias. So it's difficult, and I am very excited to see them play. The TLR lineup as well that face against them. If I'm not mistaken, we have seen this matchup before, TLR Fanbit. I couldn't quite tell you when. Right. I think maybe it was Epic 35. If it wasn't, it must have been really early in Insomnia, maybe in the BO1 stage, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, another decent set of matchups, and overall, I'm very excited to watch this UK tournament unfold. We could talk a little bit more European though, lads, and I think a good place maybe to start out for us online, I would say maybe with the event done, Gamebox. I'm not too sure if any of you would watch that. I know, Dweg, you've obviously kept up to date a little bit more than I have with this event, but I'll pull up the graphic. I've just realised I'm an absolute idiot. Astralis Talent won 2-0 in the grand finals. I'll make that change now. But right, we see this bracket here off of the group stage. Surprise, surprise, Ecstatic eliminated in the semi-finals.
Yeah. The only thing I'd have to say here is this was an event where there was a lot of routes to get to. I think 3 teams, the AGF boys, Atlantic, and the Lonnie's team all came through from the actual BYOC. And then Masonic came through from the Dust 2 League event, and then there were a couple of invites. I think the thing that surprised me the most is Tricked getting grouped. This has always been a team around the last couple of years where we've known them to be a contender towards the higher end of tier 2, always hanging about. For them to get grouped with Atlantic actually going over them, who I'm not really too familiar with them. It is the X-Dream lineup, if anyone knows that, but they're not very experienced. And then, of course, even in the semis, we saw Astralis Talent beating Masonic, which in my mind is a slight upset, because when you think about the head-to-heads in the past, it's normally been fairly easy for Masonic.
I think what one big thing with just like that event as well is, of course, it was offline, and net party herding has kind of always been like one of those Danish lands that kind of always popped off with nice little bit of production as well. Teams having nice little time there. And I still think that from the rosters, I would have expected Masonic to probably be a little bit stronger. I think Queenix, especially, we've seen him throughout the years kind of compete at this sort of level or just even slightly lower. From that Tricked lineup, to be honest, they've kind of just gone past me in the past 4 months or so. But that's probably down to me just not covering a whole lot of CS at that level. But yeah, I think from that, Masonic as strongest talent, certainly those two strongest ones. Ecstatic, I think I was surprised about as well. But yet again, Masonic, it all comes down to you having one good series. You're at a LAN. What kind of comes down is Masonic, I think, also came from a Dust 2 DK League Cup or something like that. And then Ecstatic were just kind of invited into there. I don't know. I think it just comes down to, well, if we would have seen the games, probably would have been easier to judge.
I mean, I'd even add, we spoke about it on the last show, didn't we, Ryan, about the roster changes that Ecstatic had, the fact that Wolfie's taking a break and stepping down and Zello's coming in. And I think we know, Tyler, how long Zello's been about for. Literally years in the Tier 2 scene of always being one of those AWPers that's very proficient, very strong in his own region, maybe thinking, okay, there could have been a break in 2017 for him, 2018 for him, 2019. Oh, it's going to be 2022. It's going to be years down the track when he actually gets an opportunity to go to EU. But as a whole, it is a slightly different lineup. I think what was entertaining was the fact that Bird from Sky got up after a map victory or series victory and put the fingers up, and then they got out in the semis. So come back to bite ya a little bit there.
Yeah. I remember asking Dutchy about this, right? And Dutchy's like a huge Bird from Sky fan. Like, he absolutely loves him. And so I was like, at Dutchy opinions. And he did have a chuckle about that as well. And I think actually this event, I feel like this has sort of paved the way that we talked about with the UKIC event, right? Is the fact that, okay, sure, this isn't as online as what UKIC would be, but the fact is that if you look back at the groups, it's a GSL format, which means, of course, you have to win 2 or lose 2 effectively to see if you go through or not. And then it's a single elimination best of 3 bracket for the top 4 teams. So again, we're starting to see where actually, okay, maybe this was a terrible event overall for Ecstatic, but do you know what? I might just be able to give them a bit of a breather and say, at the end of the day, okay, like, it's a big loss to Masonic. There is no denying that you've just lost probably the easier game of the 2, or in fact, it's probably the hardest team of everyone there, but that is still an easy game for a side that has been in the top 30 for so long.
Yeah.
Then again, it's 1 best of 3. Maybe the fact that you obviously played 3 BO1s as well, or 3 BO1s from your group as well. Is this where we start to see the same thing, right? Where it's like a late night, and then obviously it's like maybe up early because you've got to play 2 BO3s the next day. Like, I don't want to give them an excuse, but I feel like there is a bit of a get out of jail free card in the fact that they've probably played a bit of CS, and it is a single elimination bracket over a double. Because I think if this was a double, you play against Team Atlantic, you win, you then play against Masonic again, who have just been demolished by Astralis Talent 2-0. You know, it's a different mental game because Masonic top their group. So, I don't know. I feel like this event in general could have gone a different way had the format have been different. But of course, this is like the here and now, and the fact that it hasn't happened and they've bombed out in the semis is a big disappointment for them.
Yeah, it's basically iSeries. As far as I know, it's a LAN hall convention that there's other stuff going on rather than just the CS. At least by the VODs that I was looking at, it does seem that way.
Yeah.
And even the prize pool, it's like 50,000 Danish kroners, which works out to be just over $7,000 USD.
Yeah.
First and second gets prize money. So for Astralis Talent, that actually might be one of their biggest like cash prize victories so far for them being able to get nearly $6,000. So they'll be happy about that. And even for that team, they've made recent roster changes in the last couple of months, brought in a new coach in the main team as well. So that's got to be feeling good because they're the only, well, other than AGF, who was an academy team, they're the only academy team here. So the fact that they beat out all the other squads.
Didn't they win Academy League? Didn't they win at WePlay? Or didn't they like earn more money at WePlay?
They might have done. I think they placed second in one of them.
Yes,
they
came third in season 3 for 15,000. But no.
So all right.
Yeah,
this is
it's still probably up there.
Yeah. So if you want to rank it in terms of placement, this is the first time they've ever won anything. The closest they got to it was that 3rd place in the We Play Academy League.
Okay.
Before that, it was winning a couple grand here and there, maybe from a Malta Vibes or from a Pinnacle Winter Series. There was one Dust 2 League as well, though, where they earn a bit of cash from. And there was the Sigma Esports Malta Cup, where, Coalesce at the time, or ex-Coalesce at the time, won. That's the only other event sort of in the books for them. And so I would say a big win for them, because this is a side, I know when I started casting the 2020s, right, and this team just sort of looked very, very flat. It didn't change. Like, this team consistently, like, rock bottom, just couldn't get out of groups, couldn't get maps off people, just struggled. And so, okay, maybe you had the easiest side of the bracket, but it's nice to see that they can book a win. And I think one of the bigger quotes to live by in esports in general, right, the hardest thing to do is to book your first win. It was said on the last podcast, right, by the Fanbit guys, is that the hardest thing to do is get your first tournament win. As soon as you get that in the books, then obviously it's a different story, and maybe things become a little easier. So for them, I'm actually excited for the future of these guys, because it is a young lineup. It's one that maybe shows a little bit of promise. Are we going to see anything more than that, though? I think the question for me is now, okay, you've won one. What's next for you? Like, are we going to see these invites come in once again? Are we going to even see you get out of groups? Is this the start of Astralis talent, something they've been wanting to build for years?
Yeah, could be. I mean, it's going to help their ranking out a massive amount when it comes to HLTV. Might give them some more invites.
Yeah.
So, and they play in a couple of days as well against Masonic, actually. So that could be very interesting of another rematch.
Speaking of Astralis talent, and I guess talking about Tricked a little bit, do you want to talk about the LAN, the Heroes of Tomorrow, right? It's or maybe not a LAN, but it's a studio event. I think Jay's working it, right? So we can talk about the teams that are invited there. You can just see on your screen. A lot of in and around sort of the Scandinavian talent. A couple of names here that we are yet to even watch. 9 Academy is a team that I saw announced months ago, but didn't really think much of it. Metisport as well as another team that's sort of like the names floated around a little bit. Bitfix Gaming is sort of the 3rd team I'd add to that. Everyone else here, we can kind of sort of share a little bit of thought on. This event as a whole, though, I'm excited, you know. I feel like this is going to bring out a lot of promising talent.
It gives me very similar vibes to an Academy League, but in the Nordic scene. I mean, that's basically what this is, to an extent. And, I mean, it makes sense with the name of the event, Heroes of Tomorrow. It's about the younger squads. It's about these lesser-known teams. And, yeah, we know Tricked. We know Masonic. We know Astralis Talent. These are teams that we've seen around the Tier 2 divisions for quite a while. I think for 0-0 Prospects, that was a team that we saw in the last ESEA event, where they actually did very well there. They were able to surprise a couple of teams. Young Ninjas, we'll talk about them a little bit later on with the roster changes they've made, but that's a slightly newer-looking lineup too. And then as for Metisport, Bitfix, and 9 Academy, I think these are the 3 teams that realistically no one's going to know. You've got 2 Norwegians in there. You've got the Swedes of 9 Academy. But realistically, it's just to give them some HLTV experience, maybe give them a bit of an eye in on what it's like to play the next tier up, because you would imagine for Metisport, Bitfix, or 9 Academy, it's not every day that you get to play some class teams like a Tricked or a Masonic.
Yeah, and I think it almost gives me NISA vibes. I'm not sure if you guys were around when NISA was still around. Is it still a thing? Nordic Esports Academy? That was basically a Finnish thing where, like, I think only Finnish teams competed, to be honest. But it was something like 10,000 euros prize pool. Havu was back in it. I think iGame was still a thing. Skitlight was still a thing.
Yeah. Rocat maybe as well, like around that sort of time, possibly. Like, that was like
5 years ago, I think. And like those kind of vibes were like Nordic region teams, still a decent amount of prize money when considering like that was what is it now, 7,500 for
it's not bad
a week of play, or not even like 6 days. It's not bad.
Yeah. I think first and second get prize money, and then everybody else just basically gets the experience. I mean, so far, there's been some absolute smashers of a games. I mean, all the top seed teams doing really well. But I think once you start getting those matches of like a Metisport versus Bitfix, or a 9 Academy versus a Young Ninjas, or something along those lines, that's when you actually probably get to see a little bit more from these teams than when they just get absolutely slammed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm excited to see this tournament unfold, and as you said, right, I feel like that there is going to be a bit of a lower bracket run from one of these teams. It just is who, right? And learning the younger lineups and whatever is always going to be a bit of an interesting one. Have we got any more online events to discuss and chat about here, or?
I think that's pretty much it for the online.
Coming up.
The only thing I would add for this one is I think MistGames is actually a new TO. And to think that their first event, I mean, it's like $7.5 grand. Obviously, it's for these younger squads. They're already doing a studio production for it. I know Jay's over there. Vendetta's doing the color casting as well. So there might actually be like a TO that continues down this path of maybe not being like a rival to the Academy League, but having a different sort of style of tournament. Because realistically, I mean, if you get vibes, Tyler, of an event like 6 years ago, it just shows like how not often these kind of events are actually being played.
Yeah, like that was back in the day. I think that had a Finnish broadcast on site, but all of us English people were remote.
Right.
And then the teams were on site as well. And I think some of like the less experienced teams even had like a boot camping phase like a week before the tournament happened.
Yeah.
Like, that was some proper stuff.
Hopefully. But as you said, right, this is to sort of like lay the ground out, right, and see what they need to work on and whatever. So, yeah, no, I think this is actually really promising, and it's nice to see events like this. We can move forward to the LAN events. I think we can address the elephant in the room, saying that the RMR obviously has just concluded. The Group B of the RMR has obviously just been wrapped up. I'll throw up the graphic now for everyone to see at home if you maybe hadn't seen. This is what it looks like, though, and I usually put the round difference in the big box, but I wanted to sort of address the map difference, get your ideas on the system that they use, the book roll system, right, which is the way that the seeding works. Because there's a little bit of controversy towards the top of the table as well. We'll get to that in a minute in regards to Copenhagen Flames. However, bottom half of the table first, gents. Sinners, big upset. Heat, a big upset as well. Disappointed to see them both go out on the last day. Anonymo, I feel like, didn't really have the right over any of the teams that qualified. Still showed a decent running. Endpoint 1 and 3. Entropic 1 and 3, though. I want to pick your brains about that one. Didn't expect to see that whatsoever. I thought they were going to last a little longer.
Yeah, just to start with the teams that didn't make it, heartbreak for Sinners, right? Because I think they played really well against Bad News Eagles, and that was a game in the 5th round of Swiss that anyone could have won it. It was so close. It was back and forth. I think Sinners were even up 13-7 on Inferno and choked it a little bit, and weren't able to come forward, and that was a very good chance, even with the newer addition of Forzy rather than Oscar. They came close. For Anonymo, I was so surprised. I thought this team was going to get absolutely banged in the RMR and just go 0-3. They're so inconsistent online. They come out, they beat G2 in a best of 1, where Innocent has an insane game, and then they beat Entropic in a best of 1 too. And yeah, maybe we can get into the conversation of Entropic not playing that well. The fact that Anonymo can come here on LAN with some of their experienced players and do as well as they did, that surprised all of my expectations of this team.
Yeah, I think Anonymo certainly was a surprise. From like a German point of view, if I can bring that back into it, Sprout and Sangl certainly, wasn't really what anybody expected. I mean, I wasn't expecting Sangl to be too strong, but I wasn't expecting them to go 0-3. Same for Sprout. I think like one game could have been a winner in there. But yet again, I mean, up against Flames, a team that, of course, ended up going 3-0. And then having a couple of other difficult games up against Heat, that was kind of then the hope that I had, where maybe Heat can move on further. And then, of course, well, Endpoint beating them 2-1. I don't think that Sprout, even if they would have beat Endpoint, would have had a chance up against Spirit. No. But yeah, it's just kind of disappointing because it seemed like they were almost like back coming up, solved their problems, and then just a spiral straight away back down.
Yeah, disappointing, I'd say, for Sprout. I mean, they went 0-5 at the Pro League, didn't they? And then, even though their games were close, they had a very tough group, I'll give them that much. And even here with the draws, they did have some tough draws. But at the same time, you have to beat some of these teams, and that's exactly what Sinners were able to do, what Anonymo was able to do, what Heat was able to do in certain situations, is if you really want to qualify, you have to beat some teams that you shouldn't do. Yeah. And the fact that they're not even able to beat Endpoint, I will give him a slight caveat that Stare was not playing in the first 2 games and then only came in the last. But again, getting a win with the full lineup against Endpoint should have been a necessity. And then even for Sangl, I think they had a very similar situation too. So yeah, difficult for those 2 teams. Entropic, we can talk about them a little bit later, Ryan, like when we get into ECL conversations, but obviously they came last place in the playoffs there. They made playoffs of Pro League, but yet they beat Endpoint, and that's it. Very, very disappointing for Entropic, not even to get more than what they did.
Yeah. I'm super sad to see them go out like that. Something I did want to kind of applaud them for, though, is as you can see quite evidently, the round difference for the 1 and 3 teams. They have done leaps and bounds better than both Endpoint and ASG when it comes to the scorelines. They did have some close games, but I think what you said about Sprout and sort of in general, these teams that didn't qualify, sometimes you do just have to turn up and beat a better team. And the fact that Endpoint, I mean, they were ranked number 9 heading into this year, haven't really dipped out of the top 20 for much, have they? These guys have been a force to be reckoned with ever since the online era, basically mirroring the Gambit footsteps, right? And, well, here we are, right? 1 and 3 out in a couple of days. That's a terrible result from them. I did, however, want to shed some light on the flip side of this graphic, guys. The people that have made it through. As you can see, obviously, we do like to have a bit of a clown of all 3 of us with the little images and the banner below us. I'm the #1 Bad News Eagles supporter. I could not be happier for these guys making the major. Honestly, talking to Rig on here and there through his streams and whatever, you can tell this is a super genuine group of people that have played, if you didn't know, they played in internet cafes. That's where they started this team of Blink or Bad News Eagles, wherever you may have seen them. They started it in internet cafes, and here they are qualifying for the biggest event of 2022 so far. And they did it in very close fashion. Their game against Sinners really could have been one way or the other. But the fact that they have qualified, I think, is even more proof, right, that maybe you look back to a Quantum Bellator Fire and the big run that they had within a major. Is this going to happen again? Bad News Eagles looking, I wouldn't say extremely impressive, but I think they've surprised a lot of people in making it here.
I think, Tyler, I mean, we can go back a few years to when it was, the mixed lineup and Secret, when it was like Duran Flatroos and Opsy, Anakez, Tutson. Like, you had all the FPL players in there. And you know that these guys are sharp and that individually speaking, they're unreal. And I haven't casted a massive amount of the Bad News Eagles, but I did see them when they were still under Blink, and it was one of their last games before they got dropped by Blink, when they were playing Fnatic Rising. And it took me 1 best of 3 to just realize that I'm sold on them being the sharpest tier 2 team out there right now. Whether you get into the tactical speaking and the rotations and the understanding of the game, I think that's a different question. But just mechanically speaking, straight up aim duels, nutty rounds, clutches, they're the team. And they showed it at this RMR. They were insane. And even the hype, I mean, the videos that we saw from them when they qualified and beat Sinners, they broke, 2 monitors and even, hit their coach in the face. Like, they're getting hyped.
Yeah, that was an interesting one, because it was 2 headsets broke and they knocked over 2 monitors, but both monitors worked afterwards. So they broke the headsets, they died, but the monitors did take a bit of a beating, and so did the coach, as you said, right? I think there was a people's elbow out of absolutely nowhere to Portugal, but yeah, he's fine and well, and I mean, at the moment, you can see how much it means to him.
Yeah, I think one big part for Bad News Eagles as well is they kind of had the sympathy of all of the German-speaking region just because of Regon as well, just because he's kind of been a player that's been around Germany, of course, back at local Switzerland lands. They're kind of just playing in mixes as well, or even just being there, being part of the community. Yes, he might not be as big of a name as Maniac, but he is regularly part of analysis desks there as well, and kind of just being the expert, knowing what happens internationally and kind of bringing that to the local scene. And I think that's why he just has so many sympathies there as well. And it's just great to see. And yeah, for all that, I would have loved more German players at the major. I'm just looking forward to seeing Regon representing Switzerland as well.
It may even be the first time an unorg team has made it to a major. I mean, I'm just trying to think back to the last time that's actually happened. And I don't think it has. Any time there was a team that was unorged going into a minor, they always got picked up just as the major came. So this might actually be the first time that we have a team going to a major that is unorged, which is crazy to think about.
Just having a little look now. You are dead right, I want to say. I don't think there is a
I can't think
team.
of any. Literally.
I don't think there is a single team that have...
The only one, it might be like a My XMG, like one of the really early, like 2013 majors where there's something like that. But other than, if we're taking recent time, I don't think there is. I think all of them have been orged.
Yeah. I mean, outsiders maybe as well, but you know that's.
That's true actually.
So...
Well, they're not unorged, are they? No. Yeah, I see what you mean there. Yeah, you could kind of throw it together.
But no, I think absolutely. One more thing I did want to mention. I'm not sure if we saw the tweet from. I want to say it was from someone within Copenhagen Flames. I saw it on Twitter. It was quite funny. Basically, the Booker system obviously having its own point system or scoring, basically meaning your score is going to determine who you're playing in the next matchup. Copenhagen Flames, as you saw, had a worse round difference to players, but got an extra $20,000 just because of the Booker system and the fact that they just came first. And so maybe that is a bit of a poor choice from PGL to sort of scale it based off of the system rather off of the qualification spot. But no, I did find that hilariously funny that when I checked the Wikipedia... Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's free money. You know, you're not going to complain, are you, if you are Copenhagen Flames? But an extra 20k between first and second, but you qualify for the same thing, I think is, I did find that quite funny. Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing you could say about Bad News Eagles is I don't want to take too much credit away from them, but they did have what you could look at being a winnable run. Like the fact that they're 3-2, they beat Entropic in the best of one upset, they beat ASG, which is the Ave boys, and then they beat Sinners. Like realistically speaking, whether it be online, whether it be a Pinnacle event, whether it not even be an RMR, you could see them probably beating all three teams that they did. So I think it very much helped that they didn't have to face a G2 or an ENCE or a Players or one of the big name squads. But still, you have to show up on the day. You have to be able to get the result, and they were able to do so. So good on them.
I think one great thing as well was just that, of course, with the RMRs, we have the tiebreakers then for third and fourth, and literally just NIP then playing a best of three to then like be legend status and having more money above ends. Like that best of three, sure, you've already basically qualified, but like just having that one best of three to decide one more money, and second, if you're a challenger already a legend, it's a lot riding on just one best of three as well.
Yeah. It does feel like there's a lot of like pressure. I guess that's the whole point of this, right? Is that you can't let the pressure get to you. So I do agree, though. I find it quite funny that like one BO3 can make thousands of dollars in difference, and then also the status change as well. Something I'm not sure as well. Another tweet that I saw, just to wrap up that whole topic, was Pimp tweeted that as a challenger in one event, he earned 6 times as less from capsules and stickers and whatever than a team in the legend stage. So okay. That's also another little thing that I thought of. Yeah, a big difference. So no, I do agree. When you think of the monetary value behind it as well, yeah, that is a big jump. But do you know what? The teams that have won it, I feel like deserve it. You know, like the teams that have made it to the top 3. There's no denying these guys absolutely deserve it, and I'm super excited for the major. I think I told you as well, Josh. Right? I think my nose is going to be pressed to my screen throughout this entire event.
You'd imagine so.
Just because I feel like CS feels so competitive right now, right? And the major is going to be a perfect example of that. We still have some tier 2 teams to represent. You wouldn't put Spirit in that category maybe as much, but I mean, after the last talk, man, where everyone bashed me for saying Spirit was going to get rolled by ENCE and they got 11 rounds, I was like, yeah, have some of that, lads. Like, they're making the major.
I think in the past, we would have definitely pinned Spirit as a tier 1 team for many years.
Yes.
But I think the fact that they've overhauled the lineup, they haven't played, I think it's 7 weeks before the RMR.
Yeah.
Right now, they are kind of in that tier 2 boat until they can prove themselves to get back up to that highest level and make that jump back up. But even for Copenhagen Flames, I think they were quite breezy through this RMR, not really being challenged at all. So to see Copenhagen Flames make it through, Spirit as well. I mean, Bad News Eagles too. I mean, even for Group A, I think we had, Eternal Fire, coming through. So that's another tier 2 representative. Forza in there as well. So there's a few tier 2 teams trying to see if they can have a go at the major.
Yes, absolutely. We do want to talk about another LAN event though, right, Dweg? If I'm not mistaken, there's one more to chat about. Or
well, it was the Gamebox Invitational, but we've already spoken a bit about that.
Yeah, right. That's all done and dusted. Do you want to move forward then, lads? We'll go to the third topic of today, which of course, roster changes. This is your favorite bit, Dweg. I feel like you do love a good roster change.
It's nice.
Obviously, we talked about the Gamebox, right? Or rather, not the Gamebox. The Young Ninjas, Heroes of Tomorrow, right? Where we see a new roster that's playing in half an hour. I did just double check that before I made that statement. But yes, right, the roster changes. Good place to start. Young Ninjas, big changes. Getting rid of some of the big names. The teams are played in NIP for some lesser known Swedish talents.
Yeah, it probably comes down. I mean, I haven't read the entire press article. There is an article that you can kind of go more in depth of why the changes got made, but I think they've maybe realized some younger blood could be necessary, and that some of the other guys, LNZ, Sapek, Fuzi, I would imagine that Fuzi's going to find a home pretty soon, right? He's shown himself to be a very capable AWPer, and maybe going over to somewhere like Savage, or maybe even going EU and going down that sort of path rather than continuing on a Swedish team. You've obviously got Sapek, where a couple of his other teammates are sort of playing elsewhere. LNZ can do the same. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll get homes fairly quickly. Adam B, Maxter, and Temporary. I mean, you're familiar with Temporary, I think, Ryan, because he played on the Endpoint Academy. But overall, the new look Young Ninjas is very new, and not a lot of players that we know.
No. Any thoughts, Tom?
Have you seen them at all?
I've seen them prior to the change, of course. And like the new guys, I haven't really seen. I think I've seen Adam B.
Yeah, he's been around a little bit.
But apart from that, I've pretty much not really been in it too much. Swedish scene, of course, has been nurturing so many young talents as well. And like, how many times have we seen it now where like a guy just kind of jumps on, hasn't really been in too many HLTV events, or basically played one qualifier, didn't really show up there, but all of a sudden he's part of a Swedish team. And then in the next Pinnacle Cup or anything, he just shows up out of nowhere, and he's the hero that we just love at that stage.
Yeah, could be very possible. The other changes, which is a bit of a shame, is what happens with the NASA lineup. ESEA and Sandon parting ways with them. They actually had a chance of going to the RMR, didn't they? Because they went through the East Middle East qualifier, and then Lin Vision, who won it, were not getting the visas in time, and then I think NASA was second, but then they couldn't get the visas, and then Divine Vendetta was third, they couldn't get it either, and then LFO ended up going to the Asia qualifier. So maybe if NASA actually go to the RMR, it's a different story, and they hold the lineup. But yeah, ESEA and Sandon leaving that team.
Yeah, I think maybe we can talk about, I mean, maybe not so much tier 2, but I did want to touch on Cloud9's back in Counter-Strike, guys. I did want to give that a little bit of a mention.
Yes.
I know maybe not a roster change, but more of an organizational change. Stickers back in as well. The C9 stickers are going to be around again. I'm super excited.
Is that right?
Yeah. So they have been picked up for the major, so it will be a C9 sticker in the captures and whatnot. So yeah, I'm happy to see that. I think that's a big plus for us. Another big name back in CS. Let's not forget the last time they were in CS, the Colossus wasn't very colossal. So this is a big turnaround for them, right? And I guess like the whole moral, ethical, all of that stuff. That aside, just talking about from an organizational POV, I think it's very nice to see them back into Counter-Strike. And another funny thing that I thought was hilarious heading into this is FaZe are the favourites heading into the major. And the last time that happened was when Cloud9 beat them in the Boston major. So history may repeat itself, gents.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably looks good for the NA scene, because you'd have to imagine if Cloud9 are picking them up, they're going to be playing somewhat in NA. I wouldn't imagine the whole year, but from time to time, they can't stay in Europe 24/7, can they? I mean, I guess if they've got a boot camp facility or they've got somewhere that they can stay, but I would imagine there's got to be something that if you're representing an NA org, you at least play a month, 2 months of the year in NA, and that can only be great for the NA teams and the NA scene as a whole to actually have a team of that sort of caliber in your region.
Yeah, I think the most thing that I'm still like interested in most is how that deal actually came through, because I've seen a couple of comments from different people around, but like theoretically with the sanctions in place, Cloud9 couldn't have paid a buyout to Gambit. So did Gambit drop them?
Yeah, we might not
just
ever
basically
know.
said we'll let them go and just kind of figure out in the future, have something good with Cloud9, or like we probably won't ever find out, or maybe find out in 5 or 6 years or whatever. But I still kind of, from like an organizational standpoint and like for us kind of being behind the scenes as well, find that super interesting on how that actually went down and like what the considerations were back at Cloud9 HQ. It's like, how can we make this trade work?
No, I do agree. I think that's a really good point. I didn't really think of it that way as much, right? But now you've said it, it's a big one. Is if you can't pay a buyout clause, Gambit, I mean, effectively, if they'd have kept these players through the name and whatnot the entire time, and then maybe after everything's sort of died down and they can reintroduce these Russian organizations back in, like, what then? Like, that could have been a big sell if they wanted to cash in on it, like, and make the monetary value worthwhile. Like, that's a lot of money you're missing out on these players, especially a team that has stabilized themselves towards the top end of tier 1. So that is absolutely, no matter the angle that you take there, I think it stings for Gambit, and even more so, right, for them as a whole. You must think, what was the tie that they have with the Russian government or whatever? Was it worth keeping that than keeping your team? And then obviously that all comes into play. We won't get into that too much. But you're dead right, Tyler. That is a big one.
I mean, the only thing that you could bring to that is obviously it is a very high caliber signing, and I guess that kind of makes all these other changes maybe not as pretty, Ryan. I mean, one that you could maybe get into a little bit is Royals. Enst, we knew that he was taking a break from the game, and Palmy joins the team. Now, I'm quite familiar with Palmy. He's been around for quite a while. He's almost like the Mr. Worldwide. He's trying to get into the style of Fates, who we could talk about a little bit after as well. But he joins the team, and I know that he can do a bit of AWPing, he can do some rifling, and now Royals doesn't really look that much more UK anymore, does it?
No. So I knew about this Palmy pickup for a little while, and I was very excited for this, right? I remember looking in the Royals group chat. I don't even know how I'm still in there, right? If for those that maybe don't know, I coached this team the end of last year, right? So I've somehow stuck around enough for them to just keep me involved. But right, this pickup is very big. The Fates move as well, as you said, is a big one. He's obviously off to Strife now in America and doing his thing. But right, this Palmy pickup for a team that is meant to be the UK route. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, I couldn't tell you, I forgot now. I think Palmy is now AWPing and Jane is taking IGL. Or
I saw Jane was IGLing, but I didn't know about the AWPing bit.
I think... Yeah, it's either one of the two is 100% keeping the AWP, right? There's no denying that. It's one of the two. I'm not too sure if that's going to be obviously given to Palmy, or if Jane's going to keep that and he's taken the Fallen style of play where it's the IGL AWP.
Okay. All right, something different. You seen much of Palmy, Tyler, over the years?
I think he was part of Touch the Crown at some stage.
He was?
I'm not mistaken.
I remember that. Yeah, playing in with the Germans. Yeah,
so
jeez, mate, that's a while ago now.
It's like, that's one thing I always get back to. It's like, who played with Germans at some stage?
Yeah.
Fair play.
That's one.
Yeah.
The only others is ESEA Youngsters forms a new team. I'm getting the vibe here that there's going to be more teams joining an Academy League soon. There's been a lot in the rumor mill of younger squads coming through. There was one that we talked about the other day. I can't remember what it was, whether it was last episode or the one before, where there was like 14-year-olds involved. I think it was Entropic Futures, wasn't it?
Future. That roster.
That's right.
And I think the average age is like 14 or something like that. They have like a 13-year-old playing on their team.
Yeah.
It's like, it's unbelievable. But yeah, no, agreed.
And that's the thing you usually hear from like Danish sides, Like there was a LAN back in 2018 that I did where like one of the Danish sides came out, I think 2 13-year-olds as well.
Unreal.
And like them playing on LAN, their dads flying down with them from Denmark and then like playing a semifinal on stage.
Yeah.
So, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, my dad wouldn't fly down for a LAN with me.
Yeah, like, that is crazy. Yeah, it's cool to see. It's really cool to see. Any final thoughts on the roster changes? I did want to give a little bit of a hint. I think Endangered have been... Oh, go on, Tyler. I'll let you in as well. Endangers have been a team I've been following a little bit. iFans joined them now as well from of course, his previous adventures. So I'm quite excited to see that pick up.
This is my German side again. Entropic Prague getting to the guys from Esports Rhein-Neckar. Both Jinjo and Cecil, that of course, within Meisterschaft, have kind of been names to watch out for. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of transition into more of kind of online tier 2, maybe even tier 3. I think Entropic is one of those orgs where like a lot of Czech CS fans were like really pissed when they signed the Russian roster. But like the development that they're doing with their other teams and now with their basically Czech team adding to German-speaking players is also interesting.
Yeah. I think they've proved that they care. That's what we're going for.
I mean, just to touch on again, with Fates going over to NA, I think this is like his 3rd or 4th time going over to North America now, but it's actually more than just that. Crispy, he, German coach, was coaching them. He's parted ways with the team. They've added Tuto, I think that's how you say his name. I'm actually not sure. It's the Bulgarian coach that used to coach Windigo back in the day. He's going over with Fates too. And I think they were even coach and teammate for a little bit when they were on Finest. So that's an opportunity for the two to go to NA. And it feels as if there's a little bit more European representation going over there. I mean, 80K is like another one. I know Bodemaster was over there, Truth as well. So it might be, as the next few months roll on, more EU talent going over to NA.
I feel like Shox has started the wave, right? In that, obviously that big signing from Liquid now is like everyone's on the train, right? Everyone's trying to have a slice of the pie. But yeah, no, I do agree. Are we good to move forward, gents? Anything else you want to talk about before we talk about ESEA, or?
The only other one I would mention is AGO releasing Milky after only signing him for 44 days.
Yeah.
That was a team that we saw play at EPL, and it's a team that we get to see quite frequently in the tier 2 events, and they've signed Axe Echo on trial. 16 years old, so see what he's made of.
Another youth. Yeah, we do like it here. We do like it here. Okay, we're going to talk about ESEA. It should be the final 10-15 minutes or so. I don't think there's a lot to talk about, but we can just give a bit.
Mate.
You reckon? I
reckon there is.
All right. I think the easiest way to describe, there's a lot of scope to give. That's what I was going to finish that by saying. There is a lot that we can talk about when it does burn down to the fact that, well, everything's starting up again. For those that didn't know, ESEA basically is your way into conference, and, you know, doing well in conference will give you a spot in Pro League. So the bigger picture is winning this entirety of the leagues, going all the way up to ESL Challenger League, and winning that is that conference spot. That's what everyone's playing for at this point in time. So no, I'm super excited to see this one again. I think, Dweg, we always stick to our grassroots when it comes to this in the UK scene. We have a record number of advanced teams, if I'm not mistaken, for quite some time, in that it's 6 advanced teams this season, if I'm not mistaken. Heaven and Hell obviously being the newest addition from winning Open. And then, of course, on the greater level as well, we've got ESL Challenger League Season 41 starting up again. Anywhere in particular you gents would like to start?
Maybe ESL. Start with the groups.
We'll start with the groups. Sure. I'll bring it up for everyone here. I've just clicked the Blast event. Nice one. We do, of course, as you said, now have the EU event starting up, kicking off. Very excited to see this one here. As you can see on screen, groups coming up on there for you now, is we have a very, very big range of teams, opportunities, and I feel like last season, Dwayne, it was very easy to predict where some of these teams would place. I think ITB and Group A is like the perfect example of that, right? But now, if I'm honest with you, these games are a lot closer this season. It seems to be every season we're getting closer and closer in terms of the gap between the teams.
Especially with this format. I mean, I remember back in the day when it used to be the round robin, 16 best of ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Tyler, Unicorns of Love, playing a couple of seasons in there. I mean, this is really going back. But with this format, it does make it a bit more brutal. Best of threes, 2 wins you go through, 2 losses you go out. I mean, to start with Group A, 1 win obviously have been slightly inconsistent, slightly shaky, but they did come second last season. They made it all the way to the playoffs where they went down to Heat in the finals.
Yeah.
Sangul, obviously, we saw them play second in Advanced last season. We cast a couple of their games, or at least saw it. Third, fourth in relegations gives them the spot. And, of course, they've just played at the RMR. So when you think about at least experience and placings, they could be, I don't know, maybe a dark horse here in Group A. Any others for Group A for you, Tyler?
Yeah, I think the thing about Movistar is, sure, their lineup might not be the strongest it's been in years, and them dropping down from Pro League to now being back here, I'm still ready for them to just kind of be a dark horse surprise. I mean, sure, you'd expect them to do well just because they were a team that was relegated, but yet again, there was kind of a good reason why they did drop, so yeah, I'm hoping that Sangul can work things out. The biggest thing as well, I'm not sure if you guys actually follow their coach on Twitter.
I do not. No.
I know. Okay. Yeah. I know of him, but I don't follow him. I don't think
there was basic beef with him and the rest of the team or the org, where he basically said that he does not feel like cherished enough in the team. Or like respected enough in the team because like he was not part of like the team announcements.
Jeez.
It's like small things where like maybe also like the team dynamic has something to do with him like tweeting stuff like that, but like just like him saying that he's not appreciated at all. I don't know how good that is for your coach, and then like kind of going into a league format with that sort of mindset.
Okay, bit of UK drama by the sounds of it there, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're very used to that at this point,
always happens in Germany, so...
No.
There we go. We share a connection.
Yeah, nice. Next things next, what I do want to have a little chat about, I kind of want to group the rest of them together to begin with, and then we can sort of pick apart the groups. Again, I feel like Group A, if I'm honest with you, is the easiest one to predict. I think, obviously, you said, Dweg, that Sangul might be a dark horse. Absolutely. I think Group B, with how Ecstatic just did in the event we talked about previously, Entropic as well, not a great run in the RMR. Sinners got close. Finest, we haven't seen for a little while. Group B, for me, is like the most out of tune group to what it should be, right?
Without a doubt.
It's like, I don't know how on earth, like, this group's going to go. I feel like that's the hardest one to predict. Group C, obviously we've got the AGO lot. That's always an exciting one to watch them play and sort of have a bit of fun. Copenhagen Flames just did unbelievable at the RMR, so we know how good they are at LAN, but again, this is another online event, and is this going to hit them hard, and how's this going to work considering they're playing in the major? Like, we'll have to wait and see. I think this is post-major that they play their games, so we'll let them off. Yeah, it's May 17th, so actually it is leading up to the major because the final's on the 22nd,
right.
So there's going to be problems there, absolutely. I'm wondering how that one's going to go. Obviously, Falcons Esports in the mix as well. That's a team I feel like we're going to talk about a lot over the next coming months. They're just a team that keeps building and growing. Soar as well. Gutting, obviously, to see them from the RMR not come out with a spot. But that's another team with a bit of experience behind them, that wealth behind them, which we are going to obviously be watching out for. And Group D as well, K23, solid side. Sprout, again, a team that, okay, maybe disappointed us in the RMR. However, they've got potential, and considering their first 2 games were with their coach, I feel like this is going to be a big insight into them, is whether that RMR really was a big hit because they were playing with a coach, and are they going to be that big hitting team with those 2 new pickups that they have of Marix and Stair. So I'm super excited for all the groups. Obviously, the X-Mad Lions lot still playing together as well. Yeah, I kind of wanted to group them. I feel like Group A was the easiest one to look out for. Group B, C, and D for me is troubled water.
I look at Group A, and I think even for Movistar, they did really well in Pro League. So they could be the strong team here in Group A. Even for Vizsla, they made top 4 last season. So in my eyes, you've got 1 win, Movistar, and Vizsla, which are going to be the top 3, but there's only top 2. So
yeah,
I don't know. Like, for me, it's between those 3. I think 1 win is very safe. And then between Movistar Riders and Vizsla is who's going to make second. But any one of those three teams, I think, should make the top 2 position.
Yeah. I'd probably still put Movistar over Vizsla. But yet again, they're kind of always just hit and miss. They're very daily form. How many times have we seen them at like the Pinnacle events where like they kind of just show up and then they don't.
Yeah.
It's just like always just a kind of a coin flip. It's like, is today a good day or is it not?
Yeah, it does feel like that. It does feel like that. Do you want to move on to Advanced then, gents? I feel like that could be the event to talk about, I guess, next up is, as I said, obviously for the UK scene, we have a couple of teams that are playing on that level. However, outside of that, I'm super excited for this season. I feel like, again, as I said earlier with MDL, or rather ESL Challenger League, this is getting a lot closer in terms of the competition that we have. You can see there's a couple of teams that have already been playing. But overall, we have Apex and Apex Rebels in Advanced now. So
how is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that one works. But as we can see, Coalesce in Advanced. I didn't know about this until just then when I saw it. I didn't realize that they were playing in Advanced. We have Kawana in there. I'm always interested to see that and how they play. Obviously, we have an EC Brugge, we have an Eco, the Entropic Prague boys still kicking around. There's a lot of teams on this list as I continue to scroll down. I feel like we're going to get a lot of surprises this season. And, of course, it's very difficult to tell because we don't know all 16 matchups. And as you can see, that playoff bracket looking very, very blank. As we sort of go through this season, though, we have some very, very big names. And I'm very excited to watch this season unfold once more.
I think the biggest names are probably Bad News Eagles as number 1, playing here in Advance. Skade, Forza, Apex, Tricked, and Masonic. I mean, you've got some hard hitters when it comes to Advance, and there's a lot of those teams that I even named off that you could see being in the top flight, being in ECL. So the fact that, I mean, even for Skade, I don't know how they got here. They should have had an easy spot to maintain in relegations to get to ECL. That didn't happen. Nemega too, even though their ranking is very low, they're a class side. They're a very good team, and I think they could also be some surprising factors come this Advanced season.
I think with Advanced, just anything's always able to happen. We do have plenty of German sides there as well, and we all, I think, know how German sides do in international competitions. Generally, doesn't really work out too well. And a lot of times you kind of expect them to kind of just show up. Sure, Big Academy might have been one of those outliers, but even sometimes when they just kind of jump into some of the online cups, they don't really show up. I think Koana, I'm interested in seeing how they actually manage. I like the fact that NLG already got a win under their belt, but I think with No Limit, it's always just kind of hit and miss as well. They've had so many events where like you'd expect them against like even sometimes main teams to show up, and they still just kind of bum out.
Yeah. The only other thing that we could probably add is the Wall song, the Latvian boys being able to win Inters, got themselves into Advance, and Heaven and Hell, a side that Ryan and I are quite familiar with in the UK scene, winning Open. And I think that puts them into place. That you got Fanbit, ITB, Eco, and Heaven and Hell, which are sort of the names from the UK representatives. Realistically, though, with only top 24 making Advanced or Advanced playoffs, and you've already got this many stacked teams, I think there is going to be a lot of good teams that don't even make playoffs. They just don't even make top 24 at all.
I agree. I think the easiest way to describe now how ESEA is going, there seems to be just more and more talent sticking up towards the upper side now. And I was talking to couple of friends that have sort of played in and around, or it was actually artists as well on the broadcast, said it last episode, right, is that main is always the hardest division because you get good teams, you get great teams, you get bad teams, but it feels like Advanced, you can't fluke it anymore. Sometimes we have seen teams, we're kind of like, do they really deserve this spot? We always see it, when the teams just drop out and don't do well, but now it's starting to become a little more apparent that this is where the big boys hang now, and this isn't a joke anymore. This isn't an easy division for free money or to move up into what at the time what it would have been of MDL or obviously ESEA Premier. this is a super serious league, and as you said, as you can see on the screen, it does feel like we have some very heavy hitters in this top 16 teams of people that are just shown on Liquipedia. This isn't ordered in any way. This is just the 16, and they're obviously the relegation teams are listed at the top. But from there, it's all random. We have Apex in the mix. Forza still in and around here. There is some serious trouble to be caused this season.
I love how Avangar are still a name, and Finnegan, who's kind of been around tier 3 for what? 4 years now? 5 now? 5 years as well? Or like even the Wolsung name, like just as an org, being a Latvian org, I think they've been around for like 5 or 6 years even by now.
Yeah, the name sounds like it's been around for a while. I don't know if the current team has. I think that's quite a newer addition. But yeah, Wolsung's been going for ages. And I think
Hiskey, or whatever his name is, on Wolsung, I think he's been with Wolsung before.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because like I remember these like 1 day or like 2 day like CIS events that were like not even streamed on Twitch, streamed on a platform that I don't think even exists anymore. And like these guys were competing for like $1,000, and like when winning them, and like when you talked winning those events, you talked with them afterwards, and they were like, yeah, this is insane for us. Like these $1,000 for us is like insane money. And back then, apparently, that used to be even more than it is now. And I just love that some of those names stuck around.
Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on. I think we'll probably stream some of the playoff games. I mean, especially for regular season, might be a little bit of a stretch too far. But especially if the UK teams, you'll probably see us about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a little look. It's the Heaven and Hell debut tonight. It's literally just started.
Ooh,
so after
who are they
this.
playing?
I don't quite know. Let me have a look for you now. But yeah, I remember talking to Wolfie beforehand, and I was like, he was like, "Yo, can you like watch cast the games?" And I was like, "I wish I could." Obviously, we're talking about it now, and I think if we finish soon, maybe I'll go in on the Go TV and just have a little watch and see.
Oh, they're playing Van Vicious's team. That's a name that I remember.
So yeah, there we go. I think that there's a lot to talk about. Any final thoughts, gents, before we wrap up the episode? Anything else you want to have a little chat about?
I don't know.
No? I don't have too much else to add. Other than the Wordle was really easy, mate.
Yeah, alright. Sharp. Thanks for that. Alright. Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll have to make it more difficult next episode. But no, lads, I appreciate you guys stopping by in another episode. If you found this episode cool, obviously you can see we're no longer streaming on my channel. We actually took time out of our day, our busy schedules here, Dweg, to get an actual channel that we stream on and whatever. So yeah, we're on here now. Next episode coming quite soon. We'll confirm everything on Twitter very soon. But yes, thank you very much, Tyler, for joining us. Thank you, Dweg, of course. And thank you everyone at home for tuning in. But until then, we'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.